Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something absolutely mind-blowing: the incredible engineering it takes to build functional housing in literally the deadliest cold on Earth. We're looking at Oymyakon. This is a remote village where, no joke, your survival is 100% dependent on the structural integrity and thermal dynamics of the walls around you. Let's get into it.
So picture this extreme scenario for a second. You're leaving a nice, toasty 30 degrees Celsius home. You open your front door, and boom, you immediately face a brutal, life-threatening freeze. We are talking about a temperature swing of over 100 degrees. Out there, you'd have to wear more than 20 layers of clothing, weighing nearly 14 kilos just to take a few steps outside? So the big question is, how exactly does the architecture of a house actually keep you alive under these seemingly impossible conditions?
To really grasp the environment these houses are built to withstand, you have to hear how the locals describe it. They say it sounds like dry grass rustling behind them. And you know what that is? That's the literal sound of a person's warm breath instantly turning into ice crystals in the freezing air. It's crazy. It perfectly captures an atmosphere that is just actively hostile to human biology.
And all of this is because of one staggering number: minus 71.2 degrees Celsius. That's the lowest recorded temperature in Oymyakon, making the environment out there a relentless, deadly antagonist. I mean, at these temperatures, normal building materials literally shatter. Engines completely frozen solid within hours. So human survival here becomes this absolute marvel of engineering.
Here's our blueprint for today's Explainer. We'll unpack this survival architecture from the ground up, starting with the deadliest cold on Earth, then building foundations on permafrost, the 7 layers of defense, the central heating lifeline, and finally, the price of having no plumbing.
All right, Section 1, the deadliest cold on Earth, establishing the threat.
You see, human engineering is pushed to its absolute limits just to exist in this place. In Oymyakon, exposure means instant frostbite, dying tissue, and totally frozen machinery. If you didn't have this highly specialized architecture, a person would succumb to the cold in just minutes. The freezing air rapidly shrinks your blood vessels, basically cutting off circulation. The water inside human cells literally turns into ice crystals, which causes those cells to rupture and die. So a house out here, it isn't just a place to relax and be comfortable. It is quite literally a vital life support machine.
Moving on to Section 2, foundations on the permafrost, building on a frozen world.
Okay, so the crucial engineering challenge actually starts right at the ground floor. Permafrost is this thick layer of frozen earth that never ever thaws, and it can reach hundreds of meters deep into the planet. But here is the architectural paradox. You can't just dig deeply into this ground to pour concrete like you normally would. And if the heat from your cozy 30-degree house escapes into the floor, it'll melt the permafrost underneath it. The ground would turn into a massive, muddy sinkhole, which would destabilize and collapse the entire structure. Not exactly what you want. So, to build safely, local engineers use this massive, highly insulated, elevated foundation. It creates a flat base that strictly separates the warm house from the deep freeze down below. First, they lay thick wooden beams directly on the frozen ground to create that separation. Then, on top of those, sit the massive main logs, followed by a totally staggering 30-centimeter thick subfloor. That cavity is heavily packed with insulation before they finally install the finishing floor. It's this specific elevated design that keeps the house from sinking into a melted ruin.
Section 3, 7 layers of defense, fortifying the walls. Now, for the residents to survive, the walls have to be built as this impenetrable thermal fortress made of 7 very specific materials. If we work from the freezing outside in, you start with a thick outer wood. Then comes basalt wool, which serves as the heavy-duty primary insulation barrier. Next up is plaster, wire mesh for structural integrity, some really dense foam insulation, a second layer of inner plaster, and finally, the inner wooden panel. Every single millimeter of this wall is meticulously engineered with one goal: trap the heat. But as we know, heat loves to escape through the top and the sides. So the roof's attic space is densely packed with sawdust and natural soil, literally utilizing the local earth as heavy insulation. And the windows, heavily fortified triple glazed glass. The trapped air between those 3 panes, combined with all that soil up in the roof, effectively locks the heat inside this airtight bunker. And this intense insulation actually dictates the physical layout of the home. The primary living spaces are fully heated, sure, but the entrance rooms are intentionally left unheated. This creates a literal buffer zone that stops the deadly outside air from rushing straight into the living room every time you open the front door. Even more fascinating, the locals use these snow-covered indoor entryways as natural refrigerators. That's where they securely store their frozen milk and horse meat for the winter. Pretty clever, right?
Let's look at Section 4, the central heating lifeline, the fragile core.
At the very heart of this survival system is a surprisingly communal piece of engineering. Instead of isolating their heat sources and, relying on individual fireplaces, the village relies on a centralized lifeline. A single, massive coal-powered boiler facility pumps heat to most of the homes through heavily insulated, specialized pipes that run straight through the interiors of the houses. It's this highly efficient web of thermal energy that keeps the entire village alive.
But here is the terrifying vulnerability of the whole setup. That heating system must run non-stop. If this single coal boiler stops, or say a main pipe bursts, that cozy 30-degree interior of hundreds of homes would completely vanish within hours. It makes the continuous, flawless operation of this system a literal matter of village-wide survival.
No pressure, right? Which brings us to Section 5, the price of no plumbing, exploring the limits of architecture. So, despite this incredible insulation and the communal central heating, standard plumbing is just flat out impossible here because underground pipes would instantly freeze and burst in the permafrost. And this requires some extreme daily infrastructural sacrifices to maintain their fragile ecosystem. You want tap water? Well, your reality is manually cutting massive blocks of ice from a fast-moving, unfrozen mountain river, dragging them home on sleds, and melting them in barrels. Want a shower? Get ready for a 4 to 5 hour weekly ice bath ritual where you're chopping wood to heat a stove just to melt your frozen shampoo. And an indoor toilet? Yeah, your reality is an unheated wooden cabin out in the garden. And that leads to a deeply uncomfortable, freezing reality. Human waste freezes instantly upon hitting the air in these outdoor cabins, accumulating into frozen columns that are sometimes meters high. Just think about what this actually means. Simply using the bathroom requires putting on multiple layers of heavy survival gear, wrapping a wool shawl around your face just to prevent lung damage, and rushing to a garden outhouse in negative 60-degree darkness. It drastically highlights the harsh realities that standard modern engineering just simply cannot fix.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. Is this incredible level of extreme engineering about humanity conquering nature, or simply surviving by its rules? Because the locals of Oymyakon, they don't fight the cold. Their architecture and their daily routines show a profound respect for it. They endure strictly within its boundaries. It's a beautifully engineered coexistence with the planet's deadliest environment. I hope this deep dive into Arctic housing has fascinated you as much as it has me, and leaves you eager to discover more about what human resilience truly looks like. Catch you next time.